Hello, everyone. My name is Qing, and hope everybody is having a good day so far. I'm really excited about the newly released HEEx 1.6 because it provides the option to replace webpack with esbuild so that we no longer need Node for asset building. As mentioned, it's still in RC, but that's cool. We're still one step closer to the formal release. Over the weekend, I managed to upgrade my little app to HEEx 1.6. So in this talk, I'm going to share my journey. First, we needed to update the dependencies. Specifically, we wanted to update or add the following in the mix file of our HEEx application. Two things to note here. First is the override true option for HEEx is important because again, HEEx 1.6 is still in RC. Without it, it will cause all kinds of issues when you try to install dependencies. If you wanted to use the new HEEx templates, add HEEx live view, even if you don't actually use live view. Then obviously run mix deps.get to install the new dependencies. Next, esbuild for JavaScript and the CSS bundling. This is an optional step, but it is what I really wanted, so I'm definitely going to do it. Before talking about replacing webpack with esbuild though, I think it's worth having a quick review of the existing HEEx asset pipeline so that we know what stays the same and what needs to be updated. First of all static assets are served from priv static directory, and that stays the same. For JavaScript, Webpack will build and bundle them from assets.js to priv static.js. Then very similar for CSS, Webpack will bundle them from assets.css to priv static CSS. For images, Webpack will copy them over from assets static to priv static. Okay, so that's how the existing assets pipeline works. Now, with the new pipeline, static assets are still served from priv static, but apart from that, everything changes. For JS and the CSS, esbuild will handle them. But we do need to deal with images and other assets separately. All right, let's dive into the changes. First, we needed to remove webpack config and related node files. Just to get into the assets directory and remove webpack config, package.json, package.lock.json, and Babel RC files. If you use yarn instead of npm, obviously that should be yarn.lock instead of package.lock.json, and also remove the node modules directory. This to me is really exciting because we're getting rid of node. Then add esbuild as a dependency. No surprise there. Next is to add configuration for esbuild. Notice the CD in here. So we wanted to run the esbuild command in the assets directory. So in here, we needed to provide the relative path from the config directory to the assets directory. One thing worth noting is that if you have an umbrella app, the path should be something like ..apps, ..apps/ your app name /assets instead. Next, update the watcher. So in your dev.exs file, there should be a node watcher under the endpoint config that uses webpack. Now we wanted to replace that one with this esbuild watcher. And this is for local development only. Then we deal with the images. This is not mentioned in the HEEx 1.6 upgrade instructions by Chris McCord, but I found Jose Valim's recommendation in a Reddit thread. What he recommends is to just move everything under assets static to priv static, and then stop ignoring priv static in version control. In fact, they should be committed to Git or whatever version control system. Then we do need to ignore priv static assets because that's where esbuild puts the compiled JS and the CSS files. Of course, if you want a confirmation, check out Jose's answer on Reddit. Then we needed to add this new mix alias for deployment in the mix file as well. As we can see, there are two parts. First, it uses esbuild to create minified JS and CSS and put them in priv static assets. Then HEEx digest will add digest for all static assets in priv static. This is for deployment. So we only need to run it on build servers, for example, when deploying to Heroku or the like. This needs to be run. If you did run it locally, it would have generated a whole bunch of digested assets. Since we no longer ignore priv static, they would show up in Git status, for example. And that could be annoying, but we could remove them with this command, phx digest clean --all to get rid of all of them. Cool. Next is to update the layout. With esbuild, the compiled JS and the CSS lives in priv static assets instead of the separate JS and CSS directories as it used to be. So we needed to update the references to them in the template files. That's usually just app.html.eex or root.html.eex. The last step for the new asset pipeline is to update configuration for plug, for static plug, for the static plug. We needed to add in this only key the new assets directory and also remove the JS and CSS directories because we no longer have them. Okay, up to this point, the new asset pipeline should be working, which means we are officially free of Webpack and Node in our HEEx application. And that's awesome. Yay. Next, let's have a quick look at the new HEEx engine. So with HEEx 1.6, the LEEx engine, the live view template engine, the templates are deprecated. And now there's a new HEEx engine. It is HTML aware and it enforces valid markup. It's also more strict for the Elixir expressions inside text. I'll just explain what that means in the next couple of slides. In order to use it, make sure to have Phoenix Live View in deps, because HEEx engine, the HEEx engine is part of Phoenix Live View. It uses .HEEx suffix, so we needed to rename our existing templates. And we needed to update the Elixir expressions inside tags. Let's clarify what it means to be inside a tag. So in this example, the Elixir expression is a child of the H2 element, but that's not inside any tags. So we continue to use the current EEX expression like this without any changes. Whereas this one, the ID is appeared inside the div tag. We needed to update the EEX enclosures to a pair of curly braces. Also notice the fact that the old EEX expression is inside double quotes, whereas the curly braces are not. So the Elixir expression in the new template has to serve as the whole attribute value, not just a part of it. But with EEX, we could do something like this. The Elixir expression can be only part of a attribute value. For example, here, the Elixir expression is add item.text, which is only part of the value for href. But in situations like this one, we can't just replace the EX with the new curly brace expression. It won't work. But then how do we do it then? One way I could think of is to first interpolate the original Elixir term inside a string, and then put that whole string in a pair of curly braces. Then this way, now the Elixir, the whole string is the Elixir expression, and it is the whole attribute value. So this works. With those changes mentioned above, the new HEEx engine should be working as well. There are things that the HEEx engine support, some cool things, but the old engine doesn't, which I did not need to use. So I won't go too deep on that one. Please check the documentation if you are interested. For example, the expression now can be, say, for example, either a keyword list or a map that contains the key value pairs for the attribute and attributes and values. I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, next, let's talk about changes to deployment. My app is deployed to Gigalixir, so that's what I'll cover. Since we no longer use webpack and node to build the assets, the Phoenix static build pack is no longer necessary. So we can just get rid of it. So remove this config file. And then we need to make sure the assets.deploy task is run during deployment. We can use the hook post compile for that purpose. That's I believe that's supported by the Elixir build pack. Just add the following line in your build pack config. That should do it. Then yeah, it's reasonably straightforward. now deploying to Gigalixir should also be working as well. I'm only covering the part that needs to be changed. If you wanted to say, for example, deploy a brand new Elixir application to Gigalixir, you might want to check out the complete guide for doing that, which I'll include as a reference at the end. I'll just quickly mention that HEEx has also shipped with 2 new generators. First is HEEx.gen.auth, and it can generate a complete authentication solution for your application. The other is PHXGen.notifier, which generates a notifier for sending emails. In my little app, I didn't need to use them, but if you do need an authentication solution or a notifier, yeah, check them out. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Here are the references. HEEx 1.6 release note and HEEx 1.6 upgrade instructions by Chris McCord. And there's another guide if you need a more sophisticated build pipeline. As you can see, it supports post CSS and Tailwind and etc. It will, if your need is more complex than the default, you should check out this guide. And then the guide for deploying to Gigalixir. And then lastly, the source code for my humble little app. Yeah, thanks everyone for your time. Do we have any questions?
I had one question about, do you have to upgrade to HEEx? What happens if you just leave it?
You can. You don't have to upgrade. You can just continue using the old HEEx template. That's totally should work. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that step is also optional as well.
Yeah, Qing, you've got that link there, that third one with the more complicated setup. Is there a what's the sort of the summary of that? Like if you need to include some weird npm library or what have you for like your live view app or whatever, is it yeah, I've sort of seen people talking about that it's a little bit awkward with esbuild, but yeah, I haven't looked into it much myself yet to ascertain how awkward.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what are they referring to when they mention esbuild is awkward, because to me it basically satisfies all my need. I just want something that builds the JS and the CSS and put it somewhere like it can be served. That's it, and it does the job. That's good enough for me. But I do realize that people sometimes have more needs for that. For example, if they have a complex build process for their CSS and or even JS, they can't just use esbuild. Maybe not. I think in here, in his guide, he still used esbuild for JavaScript, but he just used post CSS and Tailwind for CSS. And then I think he did not do the, he's using CPX to copy the images, which basically was what Webpack was doing before, and then this means that we don't need to move the static assets, and then we don't need to change what's to be ignored. I think that they are optimizing for less change in that regard. But I assume that the introduction of Tailwind and Post CSS means that they probably already have a relatively complex way of building CSS. They weren't using Webpack before either.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out and see how, follow along with that, see how they do it all. Because I guess it's on the potentially on the horizon for apps that we're working with to do this. Maybe we want to stay bleeding edge. So yeah.
Rob, I just posted the link in the chat.
Oh, yes.
For that use case, you need to wrap around a bit with because you need to invoke that from within the node to access npm packages, and there's stubs how to do that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
Yep, I've got that.
Cool, thanks, Igor.
No worries. I think most exciting things about that is if you don't need npm libraries, you don't need Node at all, and that it's up to 100% faster than Webpack.
Exactly, and also for me personally, one thing that I hate about Webpack, Node, and etc. is the fact that it will always GitHub always give nonsense security alerts. They are mostly just nonsense, really, but you have to deal with them. It's really annoying.
As far as I remember, esbuild also supports JSX out of the box. So if you download like React not as an npm package, but put that locally, you can basically build SPA application in React without Node at all,
Cool.
while still using JSX.
That's good to know.